will be extensively discussing about the Flutter Web because they have really improved some of the features that was available earlier. And apart from that, a new version of Flutter has come out. And then Adobe Xd has announced the support for Flutter code. So to start with, let's start with Flutter Web. So Nitish has been doing a little bit of comparative study on this. So I think I'll allow Nitish to speak first.
Yeah, hi everyone. I have actually made a doc sheet in which I have comprised all of my points, and it contains all the list of resources as well. So like I can share my screen with that, and we can go through those things. Is that fine?
Yeah, I mean, as we discuss each point, we can discuss pros and cons, and I'm sure others have also experimented, so we can discuss together.
Yeah.
And Sarika, we are recording this GD. So I would suggest like those who can actually turn on their cameras because it looks good later on the video. So yeah, that would be better.
Yeah. So I've comprised of this complete sheet in which starting with Flutter Web. So Vikrant already discussed how Flutter Web is working currently. So it does nothing but it compiles the Dart2.js and using the Dart2.js compiler. So the complete architecture has been explained by him on his talk. So I'm not going into those details, but how like specifically into the coding pattern and what has been updated. So like if anyone is new to the Flutter Web, how to make a Flutter Web project. So this is like there's nothing new to be done with the code as such. So you just have to go into the Flutter beta channel and just enable web command is used, and then whatever project you make using normal Flutter Creator My App, it will run as in like a normal web page using this command Flutter run -g. So nothing specific to the code has been changed yet. So it will automatically run on the web as it is. So and also like the major concern when Flutter Web was released in alpha, like most of the packages were not up to date. So now we can actually check if a particular package is up to date or not. Like for example, if we take the shade preference package. So if we go to the pubdev and shade preference package, here you can see the web is tagged there. It means this particular package is now supported with web, and if someone has to make a plugin on how to make a Flutter Web plugin specifically, so it's a little difficult. Not difficult, I would say. The process is a little different, but the usage of the package is still the same. So still you have to add just shared preference in your pubsec.yaml, but internally it will do some changes. For example, if I go inside this code of this package. So here you can see a different folder will come as shared preference package. So internally, this will be used whenever you run inside the web, but externally you just have to specify shared preferences, and it will automatically run in behind. So in terms of package, most of the packages have been updated to web. The most prominent ones which we have to like 60 to 70%, I would say, and like only very minute ones are left, like camera maybe, or image picker is also already done, and all those things. So these are the two major things which we actually thought of that time, but now most of the things we didn't even see. For example, URL routing, mouse over features, Paige transitioning. So whatever these features we have already in our mobile applications. So whenever you travel, like you go from one screen to the other screen, it is actually happening using the stack feature. So you don't actually create URLs for that. It already happens in build. But for websites, you need a particular URL to navigate to that particular page, if in case. So out out of the box, we don't have such feature right now. They said that they're working on it, and there are some hacks which we can use. The package called Fluoro has already like done some changes inside their own package, and now they have like URL routing inside it. If you don't want to use a package, you can use some different methods also called named routes. It's on like somewhat same how we do routing, but some structure has been changed, and now you can add the at the end we can use like, this will be a different URL now, and our homepage will be a different URL. But the navigation will work as seamless as possible, like it was working before. It's just some URL routing has been updated now. So these all the URL will be updated dynamically. All the features has been added. This is the second way. The third way is using deep linking. This can be added either using file-based deep linking, which I would not suggest because it's not meant to do that. And the second is this guy called Build Stacks has created his own approach on how do we navigate through pages inside Flutter Web. So it is somewhat similar to named routes, but it has some a little complexity to it because he's using navigator keys here. So instead of routes, he is navigating using keys. So for every page, he has made a separate key, and each key has its own named route. So this is a different approach, but internally he's using named routes. These are the three approaches how we can use how we can solve the URL routing issue. The second thing is mouse hover. Like if I hover on a particular like button or some URL, the mouse icon should change. The hover effect should come. So by default, Flutter Web does not support that. So we can do that. We can use we can like wrap all the widgets up above a particular widget which we want, and we can add that manually. That is not like extensible in the future. So like we can use the dot 2.7 features like dot extension. Here we have like they create a particular extension. This is the extension where we can specify that on hover if the mouse cursor should be pointer or the default one. The pointer means the hand cursor, and we can use this in this way. Like this is the particular widget, and we just add dot show cursor on hover. So this particular widget now will be enabled to show cursor on hover. So this can be also used to show hover effects also. For example, so this is mouse region. He's doing some animation behind the things, and you is doing normal set state. You can change this using the state management if you want, if it is necessary. And it's the same dot show cursor on hover, dot move up on hover. So this is some feature with dot extensions, and we can use it for adding hover things. Also in this for the complete DOM has to be manipulated. So we have to specify that this complete body of our web page should have an ID called app container, which is by default specified. So we have to access this app container for our things. So whenever we are creating an extension for our house hovering events, so we have to get the element of ID, something like this. Coming to the next point, which is page transitioning. So whenever a page transition happens inside our mobile application, it is either from side or from the bottom. So it depends on what Android or iOS, what platform are you on. So so the same effect comes in the web also. The complete web page is load from the bottom. So you can change those transitions using either Fluoro also gives the complete support. It also gives like design elements to the server, like you can show fade in or some different effects. So it has a good documentation behind. the most important point is responsive pages. Like the Flutter does not support that right now, but we can have their own widget, like layout builder. If you use layout builder, for example, let me show you this. If you wrap any screen or any widget inside layout builder, and you can specify what are the constraints of the maximum width, and the it can be large screen, medium screen, and small screen. You can either wrap all your widgets as something like this, or you can create your own widget called responsive widget, and it can have all these parameters, something like this. So it can be your own custom widget based on your own custom widths or whatever you want, or you can use a specific package which we already have. This is the responsive package. So inbuilt, it gives the support for desktop, tablet, mobile phones, these all things. So for example, if you want to specify a particular thing, this is not the right package. I must be just responsive builder. I guess this one. Yeah, so we can specify device screen type as .desktop or device screen type .tablet, and it has its own constraints inside it based on different devices in the market. So we can use this one, but one concern is like in normal website development, the majority of the code remains the same, only some design aspects changes. But here most of the code changes because the complete re-render of the screen happens like whenever you minimize the screen, or like shrink the screen to your phone size, or your tablet size. So that is one concern here. But we can achieve responsive pages using these methods. Uh, one is selectable text. So by default, whenever you define a text or this text inside Flutter, so you don't have the feature to select, which is by default in all the web pages. So you can use a builder widget, which is a custom. It's not a custom, but most people don't use this widget, but it has many capabilities. This is one feature. So builder widget, you can actually see, you can actually copy the thing, you can select the things, and instead of text, we have a new widgets called selectable text and editable text also. Those are provided by Flutter guys, so we can use those, but their performance is not accurate enough because mouse cursor is not up to the mark, because their rendering process of mouse cursors are different. So you can see the issues, like whenever you are running the web page in debug mode, sometimes you may get the mouse cursor issues where whenever you do a mouse movement, you may get issues. So you just do a restart and all, so that might fix it, but it happens only sometimes. A few things which are not solved yet, which is browser forward button. So by default, the browser forward button is disabled. So there is no solution yet. It can be hacked though, because everything in Flutter navigation happens via stack. So we can maintain a list of stack and something like that, or a linked list implementation, and we can use that to maintain the browser stacks and use the browser forward button. But that is still a hack, and I don't know if it's possible or not. We can discuss this right now or later on, that if this is achievable, and if yes, then how, or should we wait for Flutter guys to do it themselves. The second thing is multi-line text editing. Like if you have a particular dialog box or a particular section or box in which you have to write complete code or complete paragraphs. So currently we don't have that. I don't know how we can achieve that right now, because we don't have particular widgets to do that. Maybe to manipulate the text field somehow. That is one way I figured out, but I cannot achieve the desired result yet. So we can discuss that thing also here. So these are the things we don't have inside Flutter Web out of the box, but we can achieve them somehow. Maybe in the future they provide such features out of the box. That will be great. Should I move ahead, or can we discuss these first?
Yeah, I think those who have tried some of these might be a challenge if we are considering it for a production level app.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So for the production level, I searched on the internet. Like currently, there are only a few companies which are using Flutter Web for production. Like Very Good Ventures is using, and like there are one more maybe. I don't know much. In Bounce also, I have implemented one like complete project, somewhat like that, and that is like an internal tool for them, and that is completely built on Flutter Web. So that is right now being used, and there are still not any issues because the complete there is no relation to Dart code once it is deployed. It is only HTML and JS. So that is one way. So we can discuss that. We can omit that JS part also. How that is like in this part we will discuss later on. So coming to the next section, which is things you might be aware of and or not, we can say that the latest features of Flutter Web. You may be knowing the networking tool, which came right now with Flutter 1.17. So it gives a like a toolbox where we can see all the API calls and all the status code and everything related to networking. So that is a handy tool for us. There is one more like debugging and bug reporting inside Flutter Web is where it's literally trash. So right now we like any UI issue comes inside particular section of the screen, the complete screen turns red. So we actually cannot pinpoint where the issue is, and even in the lab, even in the logs, we cannot even detect where the issue went. And I tried using the debugger of VS Code, but it didn't work properly. So they actually provided their own debugging thing. So if you in the command line, if you enter --web enable expression evaluation, so by this way you can actually achieve the Flutter debugging thing, and there you actually get the complete stack trace of your widgets one by one. That can be a little handy when you are like debugging something, because currently the bug reporting is very bad. The second thing is like Vikrant in his talk mentioned that the complete process of compiling the Dart to JS, that is the most prominent approach. But there is one more approach to behind it, because when we are doing Dart to JS, the most of the design elements of the Flutter, which are the core like uh, like the core importance of like the core things of Flutter, because it is named for its UI things. That the UI is so fluent, so fluid that it is loved for. But but while using Flutter Web, when it is converted to JS, the complete lag is happening, and the UI performance is not that much great. So what they have done is that you can omit that step of compiling your Dart code to JS, and you can actually run your Skia engine on your browser itself using WebAssembly and WebGL. You don't have to do much. You just, instead of normally doing Flutter and -d Chrome, which will automatically do this step Dart to JS thing, instead of doing this, you just run this complete command, and it will, instead of doing this complete process of converting it to JS, it will just run the complete Skia engine on your browser itself, and the UI performance improves by a lot, I guess. And maybe if it is being used prominently, then it may become the best UI thing in, I don't know, like, maybe. But the only caveat is that the initial load time increases a lot for when you are using this, because the complete Skia engine has to load and do all the processing. So that is one thing. But this can be improved if you're building a game on your web. So this can be useful because now your UI improvement has been enhanced a lot. So this is one networking tool, as I talked about. Like once we discuss Flutter 1.17, we can discuss this in detail later on. Also, creating packages for Flutter was pretty easy, but creating Flutter web packages is a little complex. So we have resources for that as well. Like this is a 2 or 3 part series of how we can create Flutter web plugin. So this is one way, because for example, if you're creating a URL launcher, so you have to create the complete package again to just enable it for the web. So it's a little tedious task right now. Maybe the Flutter team improves this process in the future, maybe not. But right now, this is the only process steps which we have. The second thing is state management. As I've worked with Block, Flutter Web, Flutter Block, and Mobx in Flutter Web itself, and they all work flawlessly right now. So there is no issues regarding state management in Flutter. So even if the state management is not only tied down to screens, but went down to the widget level itself. So the communication between those widgets, even without changing the screen, happens very flawlessly. So this is one very good feature right now. Like now, most of the things are done. Like in most of the blogs, Flutter team also suggested it what they're working on. So they are working on improving the code size of the Flutter web projects. The second thing is autofill. Like currently, they don't have an autofill functionality in our text fields. We cannot pass the data in down that way. In mobile applications we can, but when you try to do the same thing in Flutter web, it does not achieve the steps. Like the success rate is not that high. The second thing is the URL routing. So like I mentioned, the URL routing, currently these are the steps which we can follow to achieve it, but they are actually working on how we can do it by using normal navigator dot push pop and push name and those things. And the lastly is instead of like making the responsive pages, they are actually trying to achieve trying to make every widget as a responsive widget. So this is one thing which they're trying to do. This might help improve the responsiveness and the performance as well. So these are a few things which they are currently working on, and the rest of the things they didn't actually mention. Like for example, mouse hover things and all these things. So and that's it. And like these are some points, like why should you choose Flutter Web and why should you not choose Flutter Web. There are things I observed, like single code base, no new widgets used to be used for Flutter Web, supports PWA. Gayatri already did a wonderful talk on that. Easy to grasp for beginners who just know Flutter, they don't know any other React and these all things. Plugin support is growing like crazy. But the drawbacks of Flutter is no proper bug reporting, and no Chrome dev tool support yet. Performance lag if UI intensive usage is there if ski engine is not used directly. Slower load times, like it is slower if you use the Dart2JS, but it is even slower when you use the ski. And when you are making things responsive, a lot of code is required. Like you have to rewrite the most of the widgets based on different devices. So these are the things which I thought of. And like one thing which we can also discuss, like which I think can be a good use, like support of JS libraries inside Flutter itself. So you don't have to make the copies of those JS libraries into Flutter packages and then use them. If we can use those JS libraries directly somehow, that would be great, because whenever you are making a Flutter web project, you have the access to the index.html. So maybe using that, we can do it. It may be a POC experiment. We can try if this is doable or not. So these are my points of Flutter web.
Anyone has any questions or points to add?
It's not a talk that I do. Like, we can discuss these things like can we achieve this forward button, multi-line text editing, or we can use a different approach to all of these things. Can we like improve our performance using this and not be like can we use a load balance or something like that for the client uh, and reduce the load times somehow. I don't know. These are just random ideas which maybe may not be possible. And these are like two different articles which are like currently the most updated ones for Flutter Web updates. So I can share this doc if anyone wants.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that has not been addressed is the SEO tools, right? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way it is rendering, it is not possible to activate them in Flutter web pages.
yeah. That was written in an article I just saw, uh, but like I thought that was not necessary right now to mention because currently the performance is not bad. So how do you improve the SEO? Like, SEO is the next step to improve the marketing side. But if the product is not ready, then how do you do this SEO? So that's
Yeah, another thing that caught my attention is one of the remark that Dart to JS makes it faster than the JS coding itself. And
yes,
then when I was looking at the reasons, it said tree shaking. So tree shaking tools are available in JS as well. What do you say,
yes.
Sanket? Gaurav?
Uh, Tree shaking, I'm not pretty sure about like how does it like in normal JavaScript, how does it work, and generally the DOM manipulation. I still have, because I was discussing this thing with Vikrant, and Vikrant and I did a research, and there were few scenarios in which the tree shaking of the Flutter was quite efficient as compared to normal JavaScript. But in other scenarios, it was pretty slow. So those all depends upon use cases to use cases. There was no concrete data like always the Dart to JS will be running fast as compared to JavaScript, or it will always be running slow.
Yeah.
So it totally depends upon use cases, Sarika. That's what I understand from the article which I read.
Okay.
And I have one point, like right now Flutter Web doesn't support the server side rendering, or does it support?
No, not for right now because completely it just converts your Dart to JS. So it is just just the UI part, not the server side.
No, but we, so that means we cannot generate the HTML pages, like we cannot run Flutter Web at all from the Node.js application, inside a Node.js application. Like we have a compiler, right? That compiler works at the time of compilation. It doesn't ship with the product app, Flutter app, right? Or it ships with the Flutter app, the Dart to JS compiler.
No, but the thing is like whenever you do a normal Flutter and command using Chrome tools or your for web, it actually creates a server inside it, and the complete web runs on that server. So internally, it does it automatically. But externally, if you can control it or not, that I don't know.
Okay, and what about when you compile it and when you ship the application? The Dart to JS compiler is shipped with the application.
No, no,
Because
no,
how does this
no.
thing interact when the things get rendered on the, as you said, everything is converted into HTML JavaScript, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
then there's only any change on the DOM side, like a interaction on click, let's say, happen. So that
So
compiled JavaScript will already have the all the built-in functions to handle those stuffs.
yeah. The thing is like once you deploy it, there is no connection to that Dart to JS compiler or the complete Dart code. Like when you are making a build for it, it will just
Mhm.
completely make one HTML file, one JS file, and one CSS file, and that's it. And that will be your complete project.
Okay, okay, like
So
okay, got it. And does this support Flutter Web supports the code splitting concept like a Webpack kind of thing where we can do the splitting kind of thing? No, no.
no, not right now, because we can do it externally after the build process. We can do manipulations on it, but like before building, we don't have such feature right now.
Okay.
And
And
and even the JS file which you get is minified version, so like you don't actually have much control over it. So
yeah,
like,
correct. Because it's completely minified, beautified, and it's very difficult to read.
yeah, yeah.
And after, can we integrate service workers in Flutter Web, or it's still in? It's not sure. Like
Like
service.
when you are actually making a PWS, so that completely works using service workers only. You can actually use service worker because you have the access to in the HTML files
Mm-hmm.
before deploying. In those, you can actually deploy your service workers there itself. Like Gayatri already did that inside the PWA talk, and she also
Yep.
she mentioned there.
So
Yeah,
we.
essentially it'll be a script inside the HTML file, the base HTML file, in
Yes,
which the
yes.
compiled JS code goes.
Yes, I have not tested that. Can we add our own custom JavaScript files or not? That can be tested. Like it will be a great feature then.
Okay. Because if I can work with the service worker, then I can implement different caching layer, which can improve bit of the performance side of the application.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is the things in terms of like testing? Like how do I like they when I did there were a couple of questions regarding the testing, like how the like ecosystem for the testing of the Flutter widgets and Flutter components here.
Like when you are doing the testing for Flutter widgets, like there are two steps. Like one's as a developer and as a tester. And as a tester, you don't get much like freedom because your complete DOM is not also optimized to use in terms of a normal HTML page, because there are many widgets which you don't actually get to work with. Like for example, if you go into normal Chrome DevTools and you want to select a particular tag, and you can actually see that particular highlight has been done there. But in this process, there is nothing like that, because the complete screen is a canvas widget. So you highlight on a particular tag inside your Chrome tools, the complete screen gets highlighted. So those minute things are not there yet.
Yeah, the debugging and the testing and is still in the alpha beta version, we can say, like still not tools are available which we can use uh, for our
Yes,
day-to-day application
yes.
development, which we can use.
As a tester, we don't have right now. And if you want to use Chrome DevTools, there is nothing right now. But if you want to use your terminal, and you can use your debugger in such a way that you can actually debug things. But for testing, I don't think there is. I tried using there is one thing called inside Chrome DevTools, which is used for like marking accessibility and those things, right? Scoring of the performance and all. So that thing actually works on the website. I don't know how much accurate that is, because the complete widget is now a canvas widget. I don't know if it is accurate or not. So
Okay.
I don't have any web experience as such, but that's why I don't have any that.
And what is the roadmap for the Flutter Web? Like, is there any plan for them to like make it stable, or what is the next step which Flutter community or Flutter Web is doing?
So
Do you
one
have?
of these articles which I shared, like one of them was from the Flutter team itself, and they said that they are not planning to release a stable build yet, but they are planning to make it like each component should be stable first before making the complete stable build. So they are focusing on smaller things right now, like making things responsive, making the URL routing properly. These all things. The complete stable build, I don't know. They haven't commented on it yet, but like component wise, they are working on it right now.
Okay, and as you mentioned, responses are question in mind, like, does it Flutter Web support any of the existing CSS, like CSS framework, like SCSS or style component or LAS kind of stuff, or it has its own way of writing the CSS, like how it has its
It
own way
has
of
its
writing
own
the.
way. Like it has its own canvas kit. It uses a canvas kit, and it, whenever you convert your Dart to JS, it actually converts your Dart from JS to CSS also. So that canvas kit is being used to convert those things. So inside that, it has its own thing. I don't know what specifically they are using, but it has its own thing, and we cannot like manually add our own SAS or something like that.
Okay, so it's like a Flutter Web is like a complete framework kind of thing, like how the Angular. We don't have to go outside. Everything will be provided within the framework
Yes,
itself.
yes.
Okay.
So I think we can move on to the next topic of Flutter 1.17.
Sure.
So I think one of the few people I know, Suresh, has actually upgraded his project to 1.17. Suresh, you want to speak anything?
So like what I observed in the like 1.17 is like a drastical change in the performance, like a major change in iOS and also a minor like improvements of the performance in the Android part. So in Chant, like the project what I'm working, like it is having like a very complex UI structure where the rendering is causing the performance issues because of like multiple components are being rendered on single screen. So yeah, big like 1.17 has solved the performance issue in the iOS, almost like 60 to 70% improvement, and in Android like 20% improvement. Like this was like very good. The first point what I feel. And the second thing is the UI also, like the visualization of the existing components also, like it is like a bit improved. Like we can see the clear difference between the components in like device and device. Like the colors will vary between device and device. So like they have polished it a bit more. So this is the second thing I've seen. Yeah, these are that like two main things what I observed.
I think along with that, we have also faced some issues. Like, do you want to discuss?
I think those can be solved. That's not like release issues. I would say like that's a normal plugin issues.
Okay. I think Tanmay had mentioned some issues. Tanmay, you want to mention anything?
Actually, like when I upgraded my Flutter version, the Xcode like simulator was not working. I was able to run my like apps in real devices, but the simulator was not. I was not able to run on simulator, so I had to add some like some steps. I checked in Stack Overflow or something, but it was resolved afterwards.
Okay.
So, what was that metal support which was announced like for iOS? Like, what does that? What does it actually do? I haven't read about that yet.
Which metal support?
Like in Flutter 1.17, they have announced that the iOS metal support is now announced. It's like I wanted to know, like they like Suresh mentioned, in iOS the performance has been increased by a lot. That is the majority reason is due to the metal support. But I wanted to like understand like what is metal support and what is that, what it is actually doing under the hood. So if anyone has explored on that, we can discuss that.
So like I observed a small point here that earlier it is using a different graphic package, which is like taking more time to render the Flutter components on the iOS device. Whereas
Okay.
the new graphic package, which is like implemented in 1.17. So it is taking like bit less time to render the Flutter components in iOS device. So I have observed this.
Okay. But as the announcement was said, like they said that it is majority due to the package which you mentioned and the metal support. So metal support actually differentiates how we render pixels on the screen in iOS. So the process differs now. So like I just wanted to understand like what is the process now? What is the difference between those two things? Even the improvement is a lot, which is a good thing. Like what is the differentiation there?
Yeah, I haven't gone like deeper into it. I didn't find time to explore the things.
Okay, no issues.
I have one question. Like, is it possible to maintain different Flutter version in the single machine? Like, I don't want to upgrade my Flutter version because there are so many projects which the older version which I have, and there can be chances
Yes,
that
you
it
can
will.
actually. You can.
How do we do it? Like creating different aliases, or what is the like for Node.js? I have the NVM repository where I can just use NVM, use some Node version, and that for the particular terminal, my Node environment gets set for a particular version. So something like that is there in Flutter, or is there any other hack which I have to do?
I haven't like tested like any different hack for now. I haven't researched about it. The alias thing works, so we can use the alias one for like if anyone has an explore about it information.
You can change the name of main Flutter folder, like where the build files are there. Just
That is
change
the
it.
alias.
Change. You can just like download another upgraded version and just change it to Flutter, and older version at Flutter 1 point something. So
But that,
the
but I wanted to avoid the manual work. Like, is there any possible like
okay,
through some
manual.
the command line tool is there which I can use, and like with a command I can change the versions easily.
There's a tool called Flutter Version Manager. So we can try that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I haven't tried it, but I read somewhere that we can, like, instead of downloading, we can just link it from their repository, Flutter repository. So I think we can use that also, like shifting to another version through repository.
Like I just searched like for npm there is nvm. Like similarly for Flutter there's fvm right now in the market. So we can use that. And we can like have different version. That is a complete CLI tool right now.
I think this one, right? I just researched one.
It's from Leo FRES.
Yeah. I just shared the link in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you recommend like every project should be bumped to the latest version, or it's fine? Like we can go like there's a drastic performance bump, but still the older version is good enough to handle the performance of the application which we handle right now.
I think mainly it will depend on the libraries, the other libraries that you're using in your project. Like some of them may not be compatible with the newer version.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there mainly the things will start breaking.
Yeah, I think one of the issues we faced mainly was with Firebase packages.
Correct. The Firebase SDK was not able to call the network calls for facing. This I also faced. Like I bumped up to the latest version and then tried to call the Firebase APIs, and there it was showing that unable your mobile is offline and can't reach the Firebase server. Something like that error was coming for me.
I think Suresh has commented something that we can give the old version for plugin in Flutter, latest version to get it work. Suresh, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, like the major thing, like when I converted the entire project to the latest version, I see all the issues related to the like different plugins, not just with the like the Firebase related. Even I have seen issues related to local database, SQLite. So yeah, the latest versions of the plugins are not compatible, like for the few plugins. So yeah, we have to downgrade the plugin version if we are using the latest Flutter version. That's how like it is working.
Okay. So I think moving ahead, I think one of the good things is apart from Dartpad, now we also have CodePen support, where we can try out code snippets to see the output. So are people still favoriting Dartpad or CodePen?
I think Dartpad and CodePen have their own use cases. Like CodePen is still developing; it's not that good as compared to Dartpad. And the advantage of the CodePen, I feel, is like if you want to work on different tech stack like JavaScript or React, you can use it and share it across your community. But in Dartpad, just support Flutter. But support for Flutter is very good in the Dartpad as of now.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Apart from that, like you can also like see your Flutter widgets or layout there. You can like simply, if you want to just check out some simple components there, which you don't want to like build a whole tab to check that. You can also, there's an option to change the tab from Dart to Flutter.
Okay. I think CodePen also does that on the right pane.
Okay.
I have a point to mention, like not regarding this, but Flutter 1.17. We have a new thing called navigation rail inside Flutter. That is somewhat like an advanced version of how we do navigation inside of applications. So like in Enchant we had an issue with nested navigations. So I guess navigation rail is a solution for that right now. So has anyone explored that thing yet?
No, I don't think like in Chant that's a different requirement. The navigation rail won't solve the issue. So navigation will be like the UI look will be different completely. In Chant,
Okay.
it's pushing the screen.
So is navigation rail dependent on what UI you are using?
I didn't got you.
Like I just wanted to like ask, like, is navigation rail usage dependent on particular UI components?
I don't think I didn't try it actually, but the video what the Flutter team has released. So when I see the navigation rail, the UI is like completely different. Like the Enchant, like it's like pushing the entire screen, entire scaffold. So we push entire scaffold aside, but the navigation rail will be like a different feel. If you see the video of the like the release notes video, you can see that the UI how it looks.
Okay.
Okay, moving ahead, I think Adobe Xd Support. So any comments on that?
The only comment I is a good thing, but still it needs a lot of improvements, I guess, because it's just uses the issue with me, like what I felt is like it doesn't give you responsive designs right now. It is very static. Whatever screen size you select, based on that it will provide you, and that also limited number of widgets, not fully supported widgets are there. But it's a good tool to try it out.
Yeah, like I have observed like couple of things. The first thing is like as he said, the responsiveness is not there. The second thing is like it is not using the flexible components, the flexible widgets what we have. Most of the widgets it uses is like stack, and yeah, based on the like UI, but most of the widgets I see is like stack position. So yeah, I feel like it is not using like different kinds of widgets, the flexible widgets what we have in the Flutter. So yeah, this is the second thing. And the third thing is the folder structure, what it generates is like a bit different from what we follow. That's the third thing.
But to add one point, like it is very useful when you just have no time for development. You can just go to the Adobe and just drag and drop the sketch file, drag and drop your design, and it will generate the code for you. So basically, when you have short time and you want to present something, some idea to anybody, it's a good tool. Like you can just build the application within 10-15 minutes out of it. There's no coding required in those stuff. So for those aspects, it's a very nice plugin, I would say.
Yeah. I also like their preview. Like you can preview it on mobile as a real app without any code conversion. Okay. I think that brings us, we have covered all the topics. Anything else?
I wanted to mention, like Suresh, navigation rail can be used for like navigating inside the web dashboard itself, again for Flutter Web. So navigation rail primary usage was that, and a primary example is they have like mentioned a new widget called adaptive scaffold. So that is you for like changing the screens for tablet, mobile, and those things. So then now navigation changes in that way. So like for example, the app bar will be changed to completely nav bar. So those are few changes, and the navigation will change in such a way. So that is the primary use of navigation I saw in that purpose. There can be more, but let's see.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything?
I have a question for Flutter Web.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I listened it properly or not. I wanted to know, like in React.js, we have like module bundlers, like Webpack. Do we have such kinds of things in Flutter Web to actually minify the JS, to shorten the bundle size and stuff like that?
No, currently you don't have any control right now. As such. You can control the rendering engine, and that may like affect the bundle size as well, but it won't. Like you don't have the complete control over it like you have in React.
So when we actually ship the built product, the final production level product in the Flutter Web, what is the final code do we have? Is it written in Flutter language, or is it totally compiled to the native JavaScript and HTML and stuff?
The latter one.
Okay. So all these kinds of conversion is done by Flutter itself, or do we use any kind of third-party library?
No, it's inbuilt Flutter.
And is there any provision for code splitting, lazy loading, these things in Flutter?
Lazy loading automatically happens based on what widget you are using. So lazy loading is not tied down to your complete project, but it is tied down to specific widgets. So it depends on what widget you are using inside of Flutter. So when whenever you compile your code to like JS, the lazy loading will persist there.
Okay, so like in React.js, what we have is like we have 10 different routes, but at the moment user is landed only on the main page, so we don't really want all the code for the rest of the routes. So is this thing in Flutter?
Yes, yeah, this is there, but as I mentioned, this is very specific to widgets. So you have to know what widgets you are using, and does that widget support the lazy loading or not.
Okay, got that. Yeah, these were my doubts. Thank you.
Has anyone explored what are the new things included in Dart 2.8?
2.8 now. I guess are there any like major improvements or major features in 2.8? Like 2.7 has a new features, extension, or many things, but does 2.8 has such things?
I see like two new commands has been released, and the debugging command is really good. Just a minute, I will share the command. like to run the application like in the low configured device, to run the application in debug mode. That's a new command which is like helping a lot. Like it renders only the required components instead of like rendering all the things.
Yeah, I've seen this command, fast start, but it actually does not render your complete application as such, but it is like somewhat like a web app formation. It's not a complete application in such a way. Just to improve the load times, they have done this.
Yeah, and the other one is like package outdating. Like what are the outdated packages?
That is a good one. That is was very much required, like what packages are outdated or not. So, but still, like I guess these small things can be backward compatible if they try to. Like if that will be a big feature for us to work on the previous version as well.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of this discussion. Any final points?
I just wanted to ask, like, has anyone used Dart Dev tools yet? Like, it only does not support network tooling, but it has more support to it, like performance monitoring and all, activity monitoring, and your Flutter inspectors is also inbuilt inside it. Also, there were many more things. For example, like your own logger is there, your own debugger is there. Like it's a complete ripoff of Chrome Dev tools. So it can be a good thing to be explored for. Like it can be like Chrome Dev tools for web and Dart Dev tools for the mobile applications.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of this. So thank you everyone for joining. Have a good evening.